I'm going to give just 1 minute so we can let everybody in. We have quite a bit of people that signed up today. So take your time, settle in. And we're going to ask everyone who is here to keep your cameras off and your audios on mute. Like this, we can ensure the best possible connection. And I usually ask people to put in where you guys are from in the chat. I'm speaking from Brazil. I'm in São Paulo. And so yeah, let us know where you guys are from in the chat. Rio, hi Artur. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of Brazilians today. Let's see. Let's see if it's the majority. Hi, Mexico, Argentina, hola, hola. Uberlândia, Colombia, Ecuador. Oh yeah, so we have a lot of people. The jury de Sergipe, maior fã da Vans possível.
That's awesome. Hi, everyone.
So we have some super fans. We have some super fans here.
That's sweet. I'm here directly from Los Angeles. So hi.
DR, Toronto, awesome. I think that's most of us, so we can get started. So for those of us who came in a little bit later, I'm just going to remind you guys to keep your cameras off and your audios on mute. And throughout the conversation, you guys can actually post questions in the chat box where you're putting where you guys are speaking from now. And I'll be taking your questions throughout the talk. So yeah, as many questions as you want, send them in and we'll try to get through all of them. So, all right, let's get started. So we're here today with Bruno, who is the creative director at Vans Americas. So he's currently based in Los Angeles, as he just mentioned, and he's leading the brand's creative expression for North, Central, and South America. I think everyone here can agree that your job is really cool and you're a really cool person. So thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. And yeah, it's a pretty cool job. Not going to complain.
Yeah, and we're going to really get into that today. I'm just going to start off reading like a very basic bio of yours, just so people have a little bit more of an idea of where you started, and then we'll get into the questions. So Bruno, he started at Miami Ad School in São Paulo, Brazil as an art director. Then he did his second year and internships in Europe and graduated in Miami Ad School, Hamburg. He worked at David in São Paulo, then RGA New York, Spotify, and finally, where you are now, Vans.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you so much for being here again.
Oh, my pleasure.
So we want to get started, as we mentioned before. If you could start off by talking about or showing a piece of your work that you really love or that you're really proud of, so that we can really kind of like get into how you think. And if there are any curious things that you can share about the process, any interesting little tidbits that we can all learn from. So take it away. And if you want to introduce yourself in more detail, you can also go ahead and do that. Up to you.
Yeah, I think just gonna quick intro. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, as Paula was mentioning, Bruno, I'm originally from São Paulo, and I've been kind of cruising around the world for the past 13 years now. After my stint at Miami São Paulo, I finished my book in Hamburg, and I ended up staying in Hamburg for four and a half years right after my med school, in which I worked in a few agencies like DDB and Think. And that's when I moved back to São Paulo to join David. So yeah, pretty excited to be here today. And I'm gonna share a piece of work with you all that is actually my very first creative project ever. And I think that it's the one responsible for kind of everything that came right after that. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, it looks good here. I think you just have to make it, yeah, exactly. But it's
awesome. Oh, I think I have to take my AirPods off so you can hear the audio.
I can hear you, but not the video. I don't know if you.
Yeah, no, I haven't played the video yet.
Okay,
Just
I think, Bruno, if you stop sharing and share again, and on the bottom left corner there is a box that says share audio from the screen. It's much better audio. So stop sharing and share again. And on the bottom left there is a box that says share audio.
share sound.
Exactly.
Gotcha. That's great. Okay, let's try it again. You can all hear me and see the screen, correct? Cool. So yeah, it's a pretty short video. It's like 1.5 minutes, and then I'll talk through right after.
The Philharmonica Hamburg, the oldest orchestra of the city. It has a deep relationship with the city and its culture.
This is an orchestra that is of the city, has been supported by the city, plays for the people of the city, and carries the identity of the city in its music and its work.
The task was to create a sound logo for the Philharmonica Hamburg. The idea? Hamburg has a beautiful skyline which reflects in the Alster Lake. In this reflection, we saw a sound wave. Together with a composer, we interpreted this wave into a unique sound logo, inspired by Hamburg.
Ich habe von der Agentur eine Soundwave bekommen, welches die Stadt Hamburg widerspiegelt, die Skyline der Stadt Hamburg. Aus dieser Skyline habe ich ein Soundlogo komponiert und das wurde dann vom Orchester eingespielt. Die größte Herausforderung war, welches Instrument in einem klassischen Orchester hat einen möglichst harten Attack und einen möglichst kurzen Release, um die Glockentürme entsprechend darzustellen. Und herausgekommen ist ein wirklich einzigartiges Soundlogo.
All right.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that was it. So the reason why I wanted to show this works specifically is, well, there are a few reasons, but sorry. So the main one is that was actually the first project that I got the chance to do right after I graduated from my med school. So going back to the past a little bit, right after I graduated, I actually had a really hard time finding a job. So it was really difficult. I graduated right after the financial crisis of 2008. So that was a really bad timing, and there's a lot of people like getting unemployed and losing their jobs. So the marketing business was down. So overall, it was a pretty hard time. It took me actually like almost a year to be able to land a job. And when I joined Think, that's in Hamburg, I was all by myself. I had like no friends. I was the only non-German speaker at the agency. So it was at first it was a really hard time. So that meant that I had to eat lunch by myself, and I had to, like do most of the stuff by my own. And one night I was working late, and I decided to, you know what, I just need to go for a walk. And because I was working alone, I decided to take a walk around the lake, and the agency was right across that lake. And just by chance and by pure stroke of luck, I just sat down on a bench, and while looked at the lake, I could clearly see the sound wave. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I didn't see the city, didn't see the reflection. I just saw it straight, the sound wave. And then I got my notebook, started writing, and this is the final result of it. And that was like, that had a very special feeling to it, because it was one of those moments where you and most of you have gone through that, or will go through that in the future. But whenever that one idea strikes you, this is a beautiful feeling. It's something like awesome that it just comes from the inside. And then right after this was done, that's when I realized that music has always been the biggest passion of my life, and being able to do something for the music industry that's when it hit me. Said, you know what? Like from now on, everything that I do in my career, I'm gonna try to make something related to music, and that's where it all began.
That's amazing. And at this point then, so you were hired as an art director at this point?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Amazing. So you were a part of the team that made the logo and everything?
Yeah. So funny story, there was no team. There's nothing. So
we're looking at the team right now.
Yeah. So that was pretty much it. I was by myself, but then there was a few other folks who were by themselves. And then after we did this and one other project, and both of them were really successful inside of the agency, we were able to set up our own unit. So we were 5 people that everyone did everything. No one was teamed up with no one. We were just like 5 people working together to kind of become a powerhouse inside of the agency. And that like put me like luckily on the spotlight back in Germany and brought me back to Brazil to work for David.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So you moved back. Exactly.
Yes.
So actually one of my questions was about music, because I mean, you can really see that in your portfolio. I'm going to copy your portfolio into the chat if anybody wants to look at his stuff while we're talking about it. Right there. It's a really cool portfolio. First of all, I loved the style of it. It had like a retro style that very few people I think are brave enough to do now. I think everybody now goes for the very like white, clean, modern, you know. So I thought that was really cool. First of all.
I actually got tired of all that like pristine looking portfolios. I just wanted to do something that reflected a little bit more of my own personality. I think, I don't know if you can call that like a reflection of personality by any means, but I just wanted to like be fun. And I'm diehard horror film fan, so I always like the black screen with the red type with
red
the
type,
movie.
yeah.
So okay, that's it. Like my first portfolio, actually, all the thumbnails were thumbnails coming from horror movies. So it was like that for a long time until
but I think it's definitely important for us to touch on this point, because it's like everything you say keeps reinforcing that you seem to have found a way to work with your purpose, or to work with the things that you're very passionate about. And I think sometimes creatives want to do that and maybe are scared to do it, or they think they can't because maybe they won't get into that agency, or their book is not going to be so I don't know, so widely accepted or something like that. So can you kind of dive into this relationship a little bit that you have with music? And I've seen on your portfolio that you also have your photography, and then you have this thing with horror movies. So tell me a little bit about sort of like this creative process that you have in your head, and this relationship between passion / purpose and work, because you said you tried to. Looking at portfolio now, it looks as if you managed to do it. Like you see so many pieces of music there. So yeah, I would like to go a little bit deeper into that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So yeah, I think that everything is relative, right? So the thought of I need to fit in this agency or that agency, we are all going to go through that period. Like, long story short, when I was junior art director, my dream was to work for an agency in Montreal called Sid Lee, right? I applied to work at an agency many times, always had a hard no. Then moved to New York, got the chance to work at RGA, and I thought, you know what, I want to go to Droga 5. That's my goal. Like, got an interview, etc. No, wasn't hired or anything. So that's like little by little I started to learn that you cannot force our ways into the places that we want. We can work towards a goal that we have. And back in 2010, when I set up that my goal was to work with music, it wasn't something necessarily that I pursued with like all my strength or anything like that, but it was much more something that, because I was driving my energy to that spot, things ended up happening. And then there's a lot of what the point that you're mentioning about personality. It's, I knew what I wanted, so I knew how I had to craft my work based on where I want it to be. So what happens is that I actually done work for Sony. So I have like a lot of work related with soccer and football because I worked for the World Cup in 2014, but I chose not to put it on my portfolio because that's not where I wanted to go. I
So
wanted to be more culture driven.
representation, right?
Yeah, so I wanted my work to be culture driven. I want everything to have a certain edge. Like, am I provoking people the way I want to provoke? And is it related to music? Is it related to culture, entertainment, anything on that vein? So every time I had a chance of doing something like that, I put it on my portfolio. So there's tons of work that do not relate with that. There's even one that got really close of being like a horror movie that I had on my portfolio for a long time, but then I saw, okay, it's not up to the standard that I want it to be, and I took it off because it didn't reflect where I wanted to go. So it has a lot to do with being true to where you want to go, but not necessarily, I don't think at least that you have forced your way into a place or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you mentioned that, because it's like it's not that you don't do other kinds of work. You like you said, you do. It's just you choose to highlight those aspects in your portfolio. So that's a really good tip right there, I would say, for sure.
So, well, like years ago, I had a session on my portfolio with only music photography. I had a section only with my work as a musician. So I actually tailored everything. I even wrote on my bio, I was a music first creative. So, like it was all about tailoring everything around my creative career to actually lead me into the places that I wanted to go.
Cool. So we have our first question already. I don't know the name of the person. Yeah, there's no name, but it says, I'm going to read it out to you. In a lot of agencies, a creative group is very much dependent on the creative director, because, for instance, he or she approves everything, or does not trust the group, or is involved in every process. How do you keep the balance and manage to motivate the creative group and develop a strong ownership in them? That's a great question.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic question, because there are going to be moments, I talk it with like a lot of experience on that you're going to be working with people that you either don't trust as a creative, you don't trust their standards, or they're really hard to work with. So I've been in places where my creative director, I didn't really trust their judgment. I have to work my way around that. I've been to places where the creative director was extremely talented, but was so hard to work with because what they wanted to do was always ambiguous, but very lofty, very, the very creative type, like what if, like a lot of poetry, but not a lot of like things on paper that makes our work easy. And I've been to places where the creative directors wanted to push their own ideas. So I've been exposed to a lot of those things. And the way that I try to approach the work with my teams now is, okay, if you're on my team, you're talented, period. Like, I'm not gonna hire people that I don't trust their talents or that don't trust their potentials, which means that I need to make these people shine. They have to be the ones giving me the ideas. All I have to do is just take them in a direction that I believe they're going to succeed. It's not about me. It's not about anything. It's about the creative, the work, and it's about the people that is doing it, because it's very important for them to feel valued, to feel like they're part of the team, they're part of the process, and that's the only way they're going to learn. So the way that I try to motivate them is by leading them to where they want to go, but just making sure that wherever it is they're doing, it's on a path of excellency. But at the same time, I give them enough freedom to do it. It's not, I'm not a micromanager. I like to, okay, what do you have? Let's take a look at what you have. How can we make this better? But you're going to tell me how to make it better, and I'm going to direct you in that direction. So I think I hope I answered the question from iPhone. So
From our robot.
yeah.
One more question. I want Astrid wants to develop her career abroad. She's from the Dominican Republic. What steps would you recommend for her to accomplish this goal?
Yeah, so this is a tricky question because
So many different ways.
So many different ways you can. I mean, building a network is number one, and my med school is perfect for that. I'm not gonna lie, like everything good that happened to my career was because of my med school. So all the connections, the people, and the growth alone, that's like that's priceless. And it does help. I'm not gonna lie, it does help to win awards. I have a different relationship with advertising and award shows at the moment, but for a long time it played a huge part in not just my professional life, but actually my personal life. I would get really upset if back in 2010, I set up a really unrealistic goal to myself. I said every year I'm gonna win a Cannes Lion. And then it started happening, and then the first year I didn't do it was 2016. I was like
devastated.
I couldn't believe I told myself I was a failure and everything else. So, and that started becoming pretty toxic. But my point is, it was really important to bring me to the United States, for instance, like, because to get a visa, it's not so simple. People have to put a lot of money and effort into bringing you in. So my number one tip would be try to look at places that you have a way in. My first way in was Germany because I'm half Italian and half Brazilian. So I have an Italian passport. So that was my way in. Okay, I can work in Europe. I'm the same. Yeah, so I'm gonna try to find my way.
US.
Yeah. So
with the
and then
Italian
from
citizenship.
there, like I was able to actually do some good work, win some awards. Went back to Brazil because I was actually missing my family. And then all the awards accumulated, and then the work, that was the turning point. So an agency in New York could actually sponsor my visa. Mm-hmm. So look for places that you feel like there's a way in for you, like geographically. I know that's really tough. Being a young creative, I don't want to say unfortunately, because it doesn't suck to win awards, but I know today that this shouldn't be like the number one goal in your career. I would say number one goal should be doing something that reflects your personality and reflects who you are, because people care about people most of all. And look at places that are open to bringing in people. I think that's very important. Like New York's tough. New York's not really open. The United States is not really open. Germany is very open. I know Portugal, Spain is really open. I know that Singapore is really open. There's a lot of places in the world that do great creative work that are open to people to come in and do great work.
Even it's funny that you mentioned New York, because it's true. I remember when I was at ad school in the US, I remember a lot of times my teachers would say like, wow, everyone is so obsessed with New York, but Austin is doing great work. Seattle is doing great work. Portland, anyway, a lot of others like smaller cities that could potentially be even
Boston.
More open. Sorry?
Boston
too, exactly. And they could be even more open to people coming in from abroad, because there's not so much, everybody wants to go to New York. So you raised very good points about the geography of it all, to open your mind to going to different places.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's great. So we have a lot of questions here that are coming in. That's awesome. I love it. You guys are making my job easy today. So Rodrigo wants to know, do you think that nowadays creative-driven companies such as Spotify and Vans have more liberty or freedom, I guess, than agencies in the creative aspect of business, so they become a more attractive destination to young creatives in the market?
Somehow, yeah. First of all, Hi, Rodrigo. I think I know him. So yeah, I would say yes, because it's part of the DNA. So at Spotify, the goal of the Spotify as a brand is to make 100 million artists live through their art. So it's all about creativity. At Vans, our main creative promise is how can we uplift creative self-expression through arts, action sports, music, etc. So luckily, those are two companies that have a creative mindset built in to the DNA, but there's a lot of companies like Klarna, which is like a finance company here in the US that has a creative background, because what they want to do, they want to help people accomplish what they want, but the way they do it is through creativity. But it's still a finance app, right? A finance company. So I would say yes, that we have a little, and because of that, we ended up having a little bit more freedom of doing work. But as always, as any place you're at, I would say the number one thing is who's the person you're working for. Is that person someone that champions creativity and gives people the freedom to do the work? It helps that in being in-house, the clients are my friends, and I'm very grateful to be in a position right now that I don't necessarily have a boss. Like I do, but my boss is the marketing VP, so I can just literally do whatever I want. So it helps to be in places that are championing creativity. Some in agents might be hard sometimes, but there's still tons of places that do that.
Yeah, definitely. So Gino wants to know, and this is actually one of my questions too, which is, how was your perspective of what an art director does changed? I guess he just got out of school to nowadays. And that's sort of part of one of my questions, which was like, you know, what drove you to get into art direction in the first place? What's changed? How do you see it nowadays?
The way I got into art directions was really funny. So from the 8th grade until I graduated in high school, I knew I wanted to be a chemist. So this is like was set in stone. I even got into one of the best colleges in Brazil, focused on chemistry. But one colleague on my last year in high school told me, "Oh, you can really do some really cool illustrations," and I suck at illustration, to be honest. But I used to draw a lot in school. You know, I was drawing the whole time. And just that, I said, yeah. And she said, you should try advertising. It's okay, I'm gonna look into it. And then I went to visit a publishing house, and I saw people wearing band t-shirts and working on huge ass monitors. I said, fuck yeah, that's what I want. I want to work like that. Like, this is the lifestyle that I want. I don't want to be in like a suit or anything. So then I ended up going to college to study advertising. And right on my first month, the college that I was at, they had a like internal agency, and I just applied for creative. I didn't even know. I never opened Photoshop my entire life. And what I had to do is they taught me how to be an art director back there. And then from there, I went to my med school. And so you all have an idea how, I'm not going to say how old I am, but my entire portfolio, the graduation portfolio, were print ads and out of home. I had one kind of digital campaign.
Digital. And
it was printed, you know, like paper coming out of a machine. Remember that? So that's how my book was. So but having said that, my perspective as what an art director does hasn't really changed, because there's
how do you see it? Like,
so yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions on the word art director, right? So for me, an art director has to be a multifaceted creative. So you have to be really sharp with your concepts. You have to be really sharp with culture. You have to be really sharp with photography. You have to know everything. You have to know everything about film, movies. You have to know everything about screenwriting. You have to know everything about, you literally have to know everything about everything, because then you can direct the art. And the art, in the end, what we do is our ads. So it means that we have to know copy. We have to know art direction. We have to know how to read and write a strategy, because that's going to impact the work. So that, hasn't changed for me. I still believe that a great art director is a multifaceted creative that does literally everything. If you need to sit down and write a script, you will. I cannot say that about copywriting, so we're not going to do a layout. No, just joking, but my perception hasn't changed.
Actually, I have one question about that too, is that now that you've talked about how you feel about art direction and that it hasn't changed, you've also transitioned into being a creative director. And I guess it started at Spotify, you became a creative director already, right? And then at Vans. So I kind of wanted to know, like, what has changed? What did you have to learn or adapt yourself? What did you have to leave behind, if anything, if it's some sort of control over, like you said, not micromanage? Like, how has that transition been as a creative person?
So we are going to learn a lot. Like, we all learn all the time of how to deal with rejection. And that's for real. Like, the main thing as a creative that we all can try to accomplish is how to deal with rejection. So once you master the craft of dealing with rejection, you can start like learning how to pick your fights. You cannot be a stubborn creative. That's going to be really hard for you in the future. You have to know, like, when it's time to fight, when it's time to, like,
let it go
and be a partner. And that's something that we all learn as creatives, like, while we progress in our careers, because as we progress, we get more responsibilities, and responsibilities means that you're dealing with different types of people. Like, it got to a point now I have meetings with the president of the company, with the president of Vans, because I have to deal with a whole bunch of different aspects of the business. So the more you learn to be collaborative, cooperative, like, just learning how to deal with people, I think this is number one. And that's you get that by being exposed to different types of people. So you're a junior creative, you're going to be exposed to the whole creative team. How do you deal with that? And then you got a promotion, you're a senior creative, you're going to have some exposure to clients, how you deal with clients. And then you're going to start dealing with a lot of strategy and account people and producers. And then you become a creative director, you have to deal with all them, you have to deal with all the clients, then you have to deal with the CEO of the company. It's all of that, all encompassed into dealing with people. And it all comes down to just don't be an asshole. I think that's the number one thing.
100%. I remember when I was at Miami Ad School, we used to have the industry heroes. Every Monday, there would be someone new. And I swear, every single person that spoke would say that line at the end, like, don't be an asshole. The industry is actually small. Yep. And if you're an asshole in one place, they're going to know about it in the next place. So don't do it.
That's very true.
So we have a question here from Facundo. He says he's gone through his teacher portfolio. So what's the next step to get on the map for companies like Vans? The platform is just a portfolio, or does he need to win a Grand Prix at Cannes?
You don't need to win a Grand Prix at Cannes. I would say that 99% of the people I know never won a Grand Prix in Cannes. And for sure, like, almost 100% of the people I know never won a line before. So that's not, like, again, awards are gonna get you places, but that's not all of it. Like, you cannot be an asshole. You have to, like, know how to treat people and how to respect other people's opinion, right? How to get on the map is the tough part. I think that the only thing that in this case is going to speak louder than anything is the work. So you just graduated from Miami Ad School, focus on like building relationship with people. Like, don't be annoying. Like, there's some people who like keep bugging you all the time on LinkedIn. That can be annoying. But if you write like a very honest email, like, look, I'm looking to this. I understand you're busy. If you have time, let's talk. Some people will have the time to talk. And then you're gonna one day ended up talking to someone who's actually, you know what? I know who's gonna help you. And that's how things usually begin. But it's all about conversations and being like humble, like being humble is like number one thing. But you have to let your work speak. If you think that your work is still not where you want it to be, what else can you offer? Is it an expertise on, I know every indie film from Japan, like I'm the master of creating playlists. What else can you offer? You know, like people nowadays are looking for something new. And now like there's a lot of people who graduate who has like really similar work. How can you differentiate yourself? Will be number one. I hope answer your question, Facundo.
He actually has another question. What age did you graduate from Miami Ad School, and what age did you start working at Vans? Do you want to say that?
It's not a polite question. I'm joking. I have no problem with that.
Or maybe how many years apart that was? Like how many years it took between one and the other?
So I
5,
graduated.
Right? It's about 5, isn't it? I think I looked anyway.
So I graduated in 2009. I was 23. So I just started Vans 4 months ago. I'm 35. So that's all in all, it's like a 12-year leap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool question though, because sometimes I think a lot of people who are starting out, or even necessarily not starting out, we can look at someone's portfolio or someone's work and have this impression that everything happens so quickly. And it's like, and then that person did this, and then this, and then that, and then they got to the top and magic. And it's like, no, there's so many steps.
Yeah, and then you add all the weekends and the sleepless night in between, and then all of a sudden it happened.
Exactly. Exactly. So Pedro has a question about music. He says that he digs your social media posts and he saw that you're really into heavy hardcore music and he's a huge fan. So how did that shape you into who you are and what you do for a living today? I
must say that besides my med school, the best thing that happened to my life was being involved in the underground scene of punk and hardcore in Brazil. That's the best lesson I could ever dream of, because you kind of become a creative from scratch, right? So you're not just only like, I wasn't just like writing music with my childhood friends. We were writing music, thinking how our t-shirts are gonna look like, who's gonna design the album cover, but how we're gonna distribute the music, how we're gonna promote the shows. All of that is like, that brought me into the DIY scene really, really heavy. And I even, so this is actually my next tattoo. I'm gonna get DIY because I already got PMA here, which I learned from hardcore, from the Bad Brains, that is positive mental attitude. Because this is the first thing that hardcore taught me, is to be positive and to be good. So I had really strong foundations coming from that scene, and being a band, especially in fucking Brazil, is hard. It's really, really hard. And to be able to achieve something, we really worked hard and we had to do everything ourselves. And when you put that in the context of advertising, on the beginning of your career, you're gonna hear a lot of no's. Like, most of people are gonna say no to you. The trick was like, what did I do by myself? Like DIY. Like, what did I have to do by myself to make things happen? The case study that I showed you was mainly like DIY. So I had to like make the board, go to my creative director, sell the shit out of that idea. It was really hard. It took a long time. And then go shoot all of that, go edit it myself, go to like a post house to make, hey, can we exchange favors? Can you do that for me? You know, a lot of hustle. You have to hustle, and music teaches you how to hustle.
Amazing. So Edgar wants to know, what has been your favorite work or campaign done or involved at during your time at Vans now?
It's a hard question because I've been in Vans for only 4 months.
The one you have on your portfolio is the mini doc, right? The mini
Yes.
doc on Black owned record stores. I saw that. That was really cool.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, that's actually my first work with Vans. So for sure it's my
Okay.
favorite. But it's not, I wouldn't call it my favorite because the favorite is always the next one. And actually like balling something up that we're gonna shoot in May, that's gonna be my favorite. But yeah, I'll say like just being able to uplift voices. So that's like the motto of Vans, how are we gonna uplift voices that champion creative self-expression? And being able to work with Black-owned record stores, it's like a fucking dream come true. Because I'm a like record store nerd. I go spend hours in it. So just to be able to uplift those voices, that was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next
Sorry about all the
question.
cursing, by the way.
No worries. Eric wants to know, what would your piece of advice be to someone who's just out of ad school and doesn't really know what his or her next step should be? So any advice?
If you can, take your time to figure out. If you can't, DIY. Like, what can you do to like make things happen? Like, start like connecting with people, show your book. Like, don't be afraid of showing your book to people. Like, occasionally someone's gonna like your work, and someone's gonna give you an opportunity. So it can be exhaustive, but it's very important. I think that's the number one, like connect with people.
Yeah. And on the subject of advice, I'll ask you then 2 more questions from the script here. What advice do you have for people who are putting together their portfolios? If there are any big no-nos or must-dos, and then 1 more after that. Go ahead.
Big no-nos is no feelers. Don't think that a good portfolio is one with 15 pieces of work. If you only have 3, but they're really strong, don't add a 4th. The 4th one's going to bring your work down. And if you add a 5th, you're average. So focus on what's best of the work that makes you proud the most. And I'm a fan of personal projects. Like, this is the first thing I look in someone's portfolio. I want to say, okay, what do you do when no one's watching? This is the thing I'm gonna like, okay, I want to see how your mind works. The more fucked up your mind is, the best it is. At least in my opinion. How are you doing things that I could never have thought of, or no one's thinking of? You know, like, to show me something new. I understand that with advertising, it can be hard to add self-expression to the work because you're dealing with clients and it's being mandated by clients. So we all understand that. But what else? What else is there?
Mm-hmm.
And that was my dog.
She's approving of what you said.
Yes.
Or he, I don't know. All right, let me see. So we have another question from Mariam, I think. We found the iPhone person, it's Mariam. She said, a lot of people believe that creativity can change the world. Unfortunately, a few months ago, war started in our country. And I did also believe that I can do something to stop the war, to make the world speak up. But no, everything was out of control, the creativity. So yeah, that's deep. Some people have already decided the result. Anyway, after this, all my dreams are vanished. And it seems like I just work for making beautiful things, which will amaze a few people, like in festivals, and that's it. What is the main role of creativity in advertising field, and what to do if I'm so much disappointed?
Okay, so first of all, like, hope you can hang on. We cannot even imagine what you're going through, and if you ever need to talk anything like that, I bet that there's a whole bunch of people here, me included, that would be more than happy to engage in a true conversation how we can help. So that, and then I think that in this moment, creativity can be a form of
like an
dealing with-
outlet, or yeah.
yeah, like dealing with like how you deal with your own emotions. I think creativity is there for that. You know, it's about like mindfulness and self-care. I think I know that the whole market situation might not be ideal, so never forget about your own creativity for your own good. I think if you like start actually using that on your own benefit, for your own personal reasons, like you might find something new, something else that might get you inspired, or might get like some a new spark, you know. So yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I would agree. I was just thinking that too when I was reading the question, is like maybe try for a while making work that's very personal to you, and just using it as a way of expression, and I think that will make people connect for sure.
yeah. I
All
hope this
right.
helps.
Yes. All right, we have a question. I think Igor, how did you make the bridge from being a creative in an ad agency to be a creative in a love brand?
In all honesty, it was luck, because I joined RGA, and I remember
It was New York, right?
yeah, at RGA New York, and so there's this one person I know. Her name is Nazia. She's from Bangladesh, and she's the brightest strategist I ever met my whole life. And I always had like really deep, meaningful conversations with her all the time. And she told me one day, like, you not only should, but you're gonna work for Spotify one day. And that was back in Brazil. And I didn't even know that there was a possibility, or that the idea ever existed. Moved to New York, started working at RGA. And then I reconnected, by the way, with a friend from my med school. He's from like Miami/Ecuador. So, no, sorry, Venezuela. And we just hit up because I remember meeting him in Germany 10 years back. So we just hit up, started conversations, we got becoming friends again. And then one day in a conversation, he told me, yeah, one of my best friends is the VP at Spotify. And that was the one time I was really annoying. I was like, dude, you gotta put me in, get me an interview with him, etc., etc. And then one day he told me, I have news for you. I'm joining Spotify. And I was really mad, because I did, that was supposed to be me. But I said, don't worry, I'm gonna do my best. And then a few months after, there was an opening for a position. And that woman, Nazia, in which I was speaking to back in Brazil, one of our clients was Coca-Cola. So the VP of marketing from Coca-Cola became the VP of marketing for Spotify. And she called her personally, said, you should check out this creative. And then matching that with my friend that knew the VP of creative, they built the perfect case for me. And that was my door into Spotify. So yes, it was luck. It was pure luck.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, but the work was there too, you know, to back that up.
Yeah, no, the work was there, but I mean, that's why like connections are key. Like you have, so you have to have the work.
Yeah.
But the work alone, sometimes like it will bring you bring you to new places.
Yeah, but the networking, it's the
right people
balance.
Also see it, yeah.
We have a question from Mario. He said, have you had a favorite age of your creative life, or could you classify them from the first that changed your perspective in a bad way to the first which gave you a lot of hope that everything was okay? I think you mentioned a little bit of that with the first year right out of Miami, right out of ad school, in a recession.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I must say that was, I mean, after I got a job, that wasn't bad. You know, like I was young still, was living in a new country. That was pretty amazing, like a life, as in a life experience. But I would say like whenever everything really changed was when I joined Spotify, because that was like a dream come true. And suddenly I was having meetings with fucking Ozzy Osbourne, you know. That was like that's when I realized, oh shit, yeah, this is real.
Amazing. So I want to ask you now, because looking at your work, you know, and it's one of the topics that we kind of put together to talk to you about is, you know, what is the limit to a creative? Because judging by your work, there is no limit. You know, you have experiences in your portfolio. There's art installations with a David Bowie art installation in the subway, which in New York, which was so cool. Decade Wrapped, Ask for a Raise, which is one of my personal favorites. Looking at your portfolio, I love that one. Proud Whopper, all that. Do you kind of see a commonality between your ideas, and what advice do you have, I guess, for people to really kind of not limit themselves or their work or their ideas?
So to answer your questions, definitely no, there's no limit to what creativity can do and what can be. And I think that it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. It's the one thing is like, at least the way I do the work, and that's very uncommon. I don't recommend this to a lot of people because, I mean, yeah, it's really hard, but I usually trust my gut to a point that usually the first idea that I have is the one that I know is right. So most of the ideas in my portfolio were the first ideas. So again, don't recommend that because it doesn't work for a lot of people. But it actually can go anywhere. You can do whatever you want. And whenever there's traces of your personality, it's ownable. No one else could have thought that. No one else could have done that because it brings part of your history, part of your being, your own self-expression. And that's what drives me to keep on going with advertising. That knowing that even though it is based on a capitalist promise of profit, I can somehow put a little bit of my personality in the world.
Cool. All right, we're in the last few minutes, so let's see if we can get through these last questions. Time has flown by. Bruno wants to know how you manage your personal life with your projects and your job.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
I love David, one of the best places I ever worked in my life, but also one of the toughest places I worked in my life. A lot of late nights, a lot of weekends, and that was really tough. And after that, my experience was I have to start setting boundaries, and that actually works. You know, like I started like not agreeing with a lot of stuff because I didn't want to be like the person who was saying yes to everything. I decided like, you know what, I'd rather not take a project if it's gonna like take time out of my family. And I think like being able to set up boundaries, it's hard, it's really hard, especially in the beginning. But once you're able to do it, I think that was the key for me.
Learning how to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite books and blogs about creativity?
No.
No. Okay.
Blogs. So usually it's not a blog, but I don't know how many of you use Feedly. Feedly is like a Google Reader. So it gets all my favorite app websites into one. So it becomes like a feed of all my favorite things. And most of it is about cinema and design. So I read about that all day long. And when it comes to books, I actually not a big fan of professional like business books.
Advice.
No, read Moby Dick. Go read like Catcher in the Rye. This is creativity, you know, like people's expression with their own words into painting pictures in your mind. I think I'll say that's my favorite creativity book.
Cool. I hope I'm saying your name right. Brichelle? but she said she wants to know about personal projects. Would you say a personal project should be something that helps a social cause, or a project that displays creativity, such as painting? Now that you just mentioned, that.
It can be anything you want.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
Has to reflect.
this is very, very out there, but it is very creative. What's the boundary of creativity there? I don't know. But a friend of mine just decided he wanted to shoot, like take photographs of, I'm sorry, people as assholes.
Okay.
And substitutes their eyes with assholes. And that's a personal project.
Okay.
Like whatever crazy, fucked up thing you think of and you think can be cool, just do it. Other friend of mine decided he wanted to make himself into a sculpture. So he actually lit a whole bunch of candles and the wax was dripping on top of himself. And then his face became a sculpture. It can be whatever you want. I have another friend who is creating the glossary for the LGBTQIA+ community. So people who are not from the community can actually start saying the right things.
Yeah,
so,
like educating themselves.
Yeah, it can be literally whatever you want.
Cool. Ana Paula wants to know how to lose shame when showing our works. Is it something you ever even felt?
I'm an introvert, so the struggle is real. I think whenever you're gonna present something, know every single thing about the work. Never have if you have some doubts of the work you're presenting, you're gonna be it's gonna be tough for you to actually present with confidence. Once you know everything, every word of it, what it means, why is it there, why it has to be done. That's the best way to at least on my perspective, to build confidence to show work.
Mm-hmm. Be prepared.
Be prepared, basically.
Yeah, because then if something changes halfway through too, you can quickly adjust and not have to.
Yeah.
So Lorenzo wants to know, he's a student. So yeah, he's asking where your studying path, but you already mentioned that with college and then Miami Ad School. So did you immediately think about a master or an internship first?
So on my case
Miami Ad School?
specifically, I was working at the small agency at my college, and someone mentioned about Miami Ad School, and I never heard of it. And then I went one day just to watch a class, and I said, "Oh, this is actually pretty cool." And then from college, I finished college in November, took 3 months off. In April, I started Miami Ad School, right after.
Right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think if the person is sure that that's the path they want to follow and they can, financially, time-wise, everything, do it.
Yeah.
Do it, especially at a school like Miami Ad School where there's no age. Like I remember when I was in class, I had people who were 30 and the oldest one was 30 in the same class and the youngest one was 17 and had just graduated high school. And that was so cool because we had so many different perspectives in 10 people in one group. And
I'm gonna add to that. I actually have to go because I have a meeting, but it's just gonna add to that. I remember some case similar to that where there was a 38-year-old, and that 38-year-old became top in class, won every single student award, and today is a highly awarded creative director in Northern Europe.
Amazing.
It can happen.
Any parting advice then for people now in this new situation? Final words and goodbyes.
Final words is your own creative expression doesn't belong to anyone else but you. So just trust your work, trust your creativity. Sometimes people might think, oh, advertising is not for me, but creativity is. And trust that. I think that's it.
Yeah, carve your own path, right? Because now we can see, especially you're such a great example of that, of how you can really carve out your own path and doing it so beautifully and inspiring all of us here. So thank you so much, Bruno. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, to meet you in person, in video. It's the best we can do at these times. And I can see from everyone's questions that everyone is so inspired. So thank you so, so much. Thank you everyone for being here. Good night, everyone. And this is going to be on YouTube in a few days in Miami Ad School Argentina channel. So if you guys want to rewatch it or send it to someone, you can do so there. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.